I am a big fan of stupidity. I like to watch dumb things unravel and then laugh at them. I am even such a fan of stupidity that sometimes I just say stupid things. But on this occasion, we are not laughing at my stupidity. We are laughing at somebody else's. Because the Canadian Federation had already ended up with a load of egg on its face, right? I already made one video about how they were spying all over the place and they got caught, right? They were flying a drone over New Zealand's practice at the Olympics. And they got caught. I mean, you just get caught doing that. And then this snowball starts rolling down the hill of, well, maybe they did this and maybe they did that. And of course, the big sports news agency and TSN, I believe it is, in Canada, broke that giant news story that we kind of unpacked, talking about all these different incidences where spying occurred. And there were a couple of players that actually came out, that former players for Canada, that felt like, oh, you know, we've been kind of lied to and misled, and we didn't know we were cheating and all this sort of stuff. But news has continued to come out that makes this even more, like, more and more and more unbelievable. This from Rick Westhead talking about the men's team, obviously, who are not at the Olympics, right? A men's team that was not involved at all in the original, like in the original situation. That as this ballooned out more, you started to hear stories from like Honduras practicing in Canada, and then the head coach of Canada at the time, John Herdman, saying, yeah, a lot of people fly drones in Canada. And you're just like, okay, bullshit, right? Well, this reporting is particularly funny because it has to do with John Herdman. He said 17 Canadian men's team players were shown a video of an Honduran team's closed practice 2 days before the countries played in a World Cup qualifying game. So this might sound like a natural continuation of what we were already talking about, but this is actually just a nuclear bomb relative to what we had just heard. Because what we've now crossed the Rubicon here in this Canadian situation. We have now gone from it was kind of this shady, under the rug. The coaches had one unlisted assistant who would bring the drones and fly the drones and spy on people with the drones, to now we have transitioned to this is a widely accepted practice in the open. I mean, if you're holding a meeting with 17 of the players there, showing them footage from a closed doors Honduran practice, I mean, that's the whole team, right? That's the match day squad right there. Like, I don't know, maybe the backup goalkeeper couldn't make it to the film study session of a closed door practice, but that is the entire team. Okay, this is no longer a nefarious under the rug sort of thing. This is incredibly out in the open and obvious, and anybody could have noticed it and pointed out the fact that I'm stunned this didn't leak earlier, considering how many people seem to be involved in this operation to record closed doors practices. The reporting also sends it back earlier. Staff members of Canada's national women's U16 team were allegedly engaged in spying as early as 2016. So somehow we continue to go further and further and further back down the line with this. Two former Canada soccer contractors tell TSN they were pressured to film closed practices of opposing teams, and one said they filmed two U.S. women's national team practices before a game in 2017 and details the instructions that they were given. Okay, so this is top level spying, right? This is industrial spying. I mean, I thought the Canadians were nice. They're not playing into this stereotype at all here. Now, if you want to talk about an egg on the face moment, John Herdman, who was the coach of the he was the coach of the Canadian national team at the World Cup, right? He was this heroic figure that had steered Canada into World Cup qualification and everything else. He had multiple quotes like this, but he says, I'm quite confident in my time at Olympics and World Cups. We've never been involved in those activities. When he was asked if any drone spying was done on his watch, he said that on July 26th. I mean, it's 2 days later, and we're getting this sort of reporting that he was briefing the entire match squad before a match against Honduras in World Cup qualifying. I mean, it's hard. Like, did he not think he was going to get caught? That's so stupid. Like, did he not think that was going to leak out? I mean, do you know how many people have to be involved in something for the entire match day squad? Like, I mean, one of the players' wives, one of the assistants that had to help put together the video, like one of the janitors that happened to be walking by the open door meeting. Like, how did you not think that one person involved in this was actually going to come out and obviously be able to prove what you said 2 days ago wrong in such an obvious way. And continuing on to the modern Canadian men's national team, which of course is now coached by Jesse Marsh, the American, and they had a very good Copa America. Reporting apparently says that during the group stage of Copa America, Marsh was approached with the idea of using drones to spy on opponents. Marsh dismissed the idea and said spying on opponents wasn't part of his coaching philosophy. Now, that's a baller move right there from Jesse Marsh. He saved himself from being a part of a massive shitstorm. And of course, Canada delivered a semifinal appearance, so they had a hell of a tournament. But what is really striking to me is the stuff that is not said. Who approached? Jesse Marsh was approached by fucking who? Like, is Trudeau the guy leading the? I mean, who is really pulling the strings on this? Right, because now you're looking at a situation where Bev Priestman, the women's coach, is involved in it. You're looking at a situation where Herdman, the men's coach, was involved in it. The youth national team coaches down to U16 are involved in it. Right, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I've watched a lot of like mafia-style shows, and what we're looking at here is like a branch. But who's the person at the top? Right, I don't want to swing around a bunch of different accusations, but if everybody's doing it, the idea came from somewhere. Now, maybe it was Bev Priestman, maybe it was John Herdman that started it, but I don't think, maybe it could have been Bev Priestman that approached Jesse Marsh and was like, she took a break from Olympic preparation to be like, hey, we do this sick spying thing. You want to do this? But what I'm suggesting here is there's somebody in the Canadian Federation who's operating like the godfather of drones. Now, my personal opinion is that this is some sort of advertising campaign for a drone company, and that what we have here is a lobbyist that has lobbied the Canadian Federation so successfully to use the drones, he's actually gotten the Canadian Federation in trouble. Like, butterfly effect. He goes in trying to sell drones to use for their practices, and somebody has a light bulb go off that all of a sudden they're going to use these drones to spy on other people's practice. But the fact that the head coach of the Canadian men's national team was approached during the group stage of Copa America with a game plan to spy, to cheat. I mean, this is like by the rules of the game, this is cheating. That's why they're called closed door practices, okay? You're not supposed to be able to look through the door or fly above it, I guess. The fact that the coach of the Canadian men's national team was approached to do that suggests that this is unbelievably pervasive within the Canadian Federation. Now, I don't know how you root that out, but the punishments are starting to come down. FIFA's ruling on the drone scandal. Canada was deducted 6 points at the Olympics and fined 200,000 CHF, which I don't really, that's what, that's the Swiss currency, I think. I don't know. Priestman, who's the head coach, Lombardi and Mander suspended from any football-related activity for an entire year, which means the head coach of the Canadian women's national team is now suspended for an entire year and will not be able to coach the team, obviously, at the Olympics. Now, they also, in the statement, said the Canadian Soccer Association was found responsible for failing to respect the applicable FIFA regulations in connection with its failure to ensure compliance of its participating officials of the OFT with the prohibition of flying drones over any training sites. The officials were each found responsible for offensive behavior in violation of the principles of fair play in connection with CSA's women's representative teams. I don't really understand why they stopped there. They're basically saying that the CSA is found responsible for failing to respect the applicable FIFA regulations, but they're not actually going after the CSA, right? They're going after basically the people that got caught. Now I'm going to use something that I've learned from those mob TV shows. What if we put a wire on Bev Priestman and put her back in a board meeting, and then maybe we could bring down the big fish? Somebody with a suspiciously deep voice and a trench coat that swivels around in a chair, locks eyes with you in a way that you've never felt before, and tells you that you're going to use drones. And somehow Jesse Marsh was able to resist that temptation thanks to his podunk, his Ted Lasso charm, able to resist the allure of cheating. And then there was a really interesting angle from ESPN, which finally released a kind of expose article about the situation that talked about maybe a reason that Canada didn't get caught earlier. Because they basically say that the United States in particular, because the US and Canada play all the time, had been aware that Canada was doing a bunch of nefarious shit that had to do with spying, right? They were aware of it. And asked why U.S. soccer never went to the governing bodies like FIFA or CONCACAF to investigate, one source pointed to a larger relationship between the federations. They'd worked together to put together that 2026 bid to host the World Cup, and the inevitable awkwardness such a claim of cheating would create. It wasn't worth it with so many bigger ticket issues out there, the source said, but that doesn't mean it didn't matter. Now, the reporting also makes a couple of other suggestions. They try and point out who that godfather might be. They say it might be John Herdman. Multiple sources of the U.S. say he's like the common denominator because he coached the women from 2011 to 2018, then switched the men's side from 2018 to 2023. So he would make the most sense as the godfather of drones here. And Bev Priestman was just the one that actually got caught. Well, I mean, not like Herdman didn't get caught. And it wasn't even just drones. Just listen to this story. During training, and this is the U.S. training in Miami in 2021. During training, a team security guard noticed a man sitting in the otherwise empty adjacent football stadium watching the U.S. practice. The security guard approached the man and asked him who he was. The man said he worked for IMG Academy, at which point the security guard told him he wasn't allowed to be watching practice. The man said he would leave, and the security guard went back to training. Moments later, the security guard looked back, and the man had simply moved to a different point in the football stadium to continue watching. At that point, the security guard asked another IMG staff member who the man was, and was told, "He doesn't work for us." The security guard then returned to the football stadium and confronted the man, who finally admitted he was a Canada staffer. Not a very good secret agent there. You can't just like admit that. What do you, you got like, how, you don't have another line prepared? Like, oh, sorry, I'll just leave. Oh, this is crazy. This actually contradicts. With the reporting about what Jesse Mars said. Canada Soccer also acknowledged in its news conference that the men's team attempted to utilize drones to view training sessions during this past summer's Copa America, where it reached the semifinals. And if both of those reporting like instances are correct, what if they were doing it without Jesse Marsh's knowledge? Like, what if everybody's reporting is right? Jesse Marsh didn't okay it, but they just did it anyways because it was that ingrained. That would be insane. But overall, the article from ESPN, the same way the TSN's article on the situation, it is fantastic. It is worth a thorough read. But the point of this entire thing is that Canada, like to its core, down to its bones, be cheating. Be cheating a lot. Maybe even be cheating behind its head coach's back. Now that is when it starts to get even crazier. Also, John Herdman, out of pocket, man. This dude was like, he was Lance Armstrong levels of lying up in here.